guys, we speak today on Tech Chat with Slim Fit. Is the principal developer and founder of Hybrid. Hybrid is a UK-based software company, right? And they focus on the development of educational and healthcare mobile technology solutions. Sani is a Microsoft MVP and Angular ionic developer, and has worked for companies like Microsoft and Sworkit, right? It's gonna be a long day if I start reading our Sani's profile, right? Maybe we should just cut it at that, and then let's move. In this video, we're gonna have a lengthy conversation about everything mobile app development and how you, as a software development enthusiast, can be better at what you do, can learn from Sani, and also some of the resources you need to better your work. All right, so join me in welcoming Sani Yusuf, and thanks so much for doing this with me. And it's a great pleasure having you on this on my YouTube channel today. So let's get straight into it. Let's start with your background. Where is Sani from? When did you move to the UK? How did you start up development? I mean, let's go straight into it.
Well, thank you very much for having me on this show. Where is Sani from? That's an interesting question. I'd like to say the moon, but that's not necessarily the truth, right? Or Pandora. So I'm from Lagos,
Nice.
but my family is originally northern Nigerian, or from the northeast, and I was born and raised in Lagos, so I'm a Lagos boy. Festac town to be specific,
Cool.
and yeah, that's really where my story begins in life, in tech, in everything IT. So that's kind of how it started for me, really.
What school did you attend, and did you attend schools in Festac?
Yes. I went to school in Festac. I went to school just a few minute drive from my
What
home.
school is that?
That's called Laura,
Oh, okay.
Laura International. And pretty much everyone in my school, my family went to that school. We were like, because there's a lot of us in my house, so it's like there was always a Yusuf child in like pretty much every.
Sense.
I think we got like a discount because there were that many of us in the school. So
How many of you guys?
the number evades me sometimes, but I would say let's just say plus or minus 10. Yes, yeah, definitely. But yeah, that's it. I went to that school, and yeah, that was it really for me.
Okay, so what about your university education? No, before that's primary school, right?
Yeah, so I kind of went to the same nursery, primary, and secondary school.
Oh, okay.
So
So
I kept
the
going to
same
this.
school.
Yes,
Oh,
I went to
okay.
the same institution for all of that. So
Oh, okay.
yeah, so there was nowhere to hide.
During your secondary school education, were you a commercial student or a science student? At what point did you develop interest for mobile app development during your
Yeah.
secondary school education?
I mean, I wouldn't say there was. Towards the end, there was some interest in mobile development, but I think very early on there was interest in IT, and that probably started in primary school. I'd actually say Islam brought me into IT.
IT.
I was very interested, like lightly, but when I was growing up, you didn't really have computers and all that. So my school actually was one of the few schools that had computers. They had, like, I think there was only 5 for us to share. There was a class of 30.
Oh,
So I was interested in gaming and all of that. But then I think the changing point for me, or the pivot point, was I graduated. I was the first in my family to graduate from like the Islamic studies. We call it a walima.
okay.
And an uncle of mine bought me a computer as a gift.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, that was like, it was unheard of. So I think that was when my interest started, because then I had to be using that, and my sisters would tell me not to use it when I'm sleeping, when they're sleeping, but because my sister and I, our rooms, we share a window, so I had to learn how to hack and turn down the volume and things like that. And eventually, yeah, I did all of that from late primary school into secondary school. Yes.
Oh, nice. So it's safe to say, I mean, from your secondary school days, you had a laptop at least to up your interest in.
Yeah, absolutely. I was lucky because the thing is, my dad wasn't really, because he didn't really understand. He just thought I was just playing video games or something like that. So lucky, I've always had some uncle that just believed in me. And I'm not saying my dad didn't believe in me. He just didn't understand. If I have a child today and they tell me they want to be a YouTube influencer or TikTok influencer, I think I'm going to struggle a little bit because I don't do that. So in secondary school, I had an uncle that bought me a laptop because the other uncle, the computer he got me had gone bad, and so he bought me a laptop, and I would just learn how to use the internet and learn how to research, learn how to create apps and things like that. So that's kind of where it started for me.
Nice. I mean, so moving to your university education, right? I
Mm.
mean, so after your secondary school education, so I mean, what kind of sorts? Did you do jam your jam in Nigeria?
Yes, I did do
Did jam
jam.
jam you?
No, I jam. Yes, I had a pretty high score. I think I still remember I had 256.
Oh, nice.
In my year, I think the highest score was 350 or 315, one of them. And so, like, I would say I did more than most people, but better than most people. But yeah, like, way even from high school, I was already like, I was the guy to come for new MP3 music.
Oh,
I was the guy to come for the ringtones, the PlayStation Portable, the PSP. I was that guy. So I was the guy you came to because I had to figure out a way to pay for my internet. Starcoms, 16,000.
that comes then.
My dad paid once and he was never going to pay again. So I had to figure out some way to make money. So, I had to basically kind of sell illegal music or give people, but hey, it worked. And so, yeah, that was high school for me. And then, yes, I did do jam. I was actually going to go to APTI, American, at the time it was APTI, American University Nigeria.
Yeah.
But a few things happened that made me decide to move to the UK. Maybe we might get into that a little bit later, but that's basically how my Nigerian experience was with education.
Oh, nice. I mean, so when you moved to the UK, what course did you, what school did you enroll
Yes.
into, and what course?
Yeah, so it was interesting because I actually never wanted to leave at first. Because I actually started my first company in Nigeria.
Oh, nice.
Yes,
I mean, let's talk about that.
Yeah, so I started a company called Nuclear Mix because I lived in Festac Town, which is a city of music. And so I don't know exactly.
The root of two-face.
Yes, we were literally we live and breathe music. So very early on, I actually dabbled into music, but I quickly figured out I was probably not going to be elite.
This is not for me.
Yes, I did okay. I was an okay enough rapper, okay enough writer, but I don't think that's what I wanted to do. So I started a basically like SPTV where I went around. I interviewed young artists that didn't get any like they didn't get any like a publication or platform, and I'd interview them. I would put up their music, and that was very new. And this was like 2008, 2009. So I was doing that, and suddenly we were having some traction. But I think at some point I decided for my future that I needed to let that go, and that was already a profitable company. We were making money on YouTube. We were already getting Google AdSense and all of that. But I wanted to learn more about programming and all of that. So that's when I decided that I wanted to leave that, and that company was called Nuclear Remix or Nuclear Mix, and I left that, retired it, and then moved to the UK to Brunel University. Yes, to enroll for computer science.
Yeah, that's pretty interesting. Computer science. Let's talk about computer science. I know some people watching can relate. So studying computer science in London, in the university in London, I suppose, I mean, compared to studying computer science in a university in Nigeria, I know it's a major difference, right? I studied computer science, and I can tell you one thing for free. I didn't see a laptop or a desktop at any point during my university days. I mean, from the school, right? I mean, so I come from a university whereby students had to sort themselves out. Students had to enroll in programs outside the university to learn basic computer programming language skills and all of that. So let's talk about your own computer science and at Brunel University.
Yeah. You're right. I think one of the reasons why I left was because of that. Even though at the time I was going to go to American University Nigeria, which was probably the best in computer science. I had the internet. I had looked at what people were learning, and in Nigeria, I was very comfortable being good, but I didn't want to be the big fish in a small pond. I wanted to be the shark in the ocean. So that's why I had to give up a somewhat profitable company to go and really test myself on the world stage. And Brunel had everything I wanted. And you're right, when I came, actually, my laptop was not working well. I don't think I had a working laptop, but you're right. Like, you have access to the library, you have access to computers, you can log in and you can do a lot of that. And so I chose to do that, and it was an amazing experience. And my major was in software engineering and artificial intelligence. So these were my two majors. So I have my degree basically says computer science with software engineering and artificial intelligence. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean that's interesting. So, did you at any point in time do any placement in your university days? What I mean, what are some of the things you learned
Hmm.
with regards to software development?
Oh yeah, I learned a lot in Brunel University. I would say I had a great university experience generally. Because everything we were learning was new. I had to get involved with Android at the time where no one in the university knew Android. The people teaching us didn't even know Android. So me, a couple of my friends, we had to go learn Android. This guy called the new Boston, Bucky Roberts on YouTube. We had to go learn and then teach everybody else. So there was a bunch of us that we were the ones that would take the time sometimes go learn stuff.
Then come
Uh,
back to teach
they,
others.
yeah, come back and show everybody because we had prior experience. So you'd see some people are better at networking. I didn't really like that. Some people are better at artificial intelligence. I was one of those people. And then from the very get go, when I was in Nigeria, I had decided I was going to do a placement. So instead of a 3 year course, I was going to do a 4 year course. And a lot of the Nigerians I would meet would tell me, no, you're not a British citizen. You're not going to get the placement and everything. But if there's one thing about me is when you tell me I can't, you're basically that's a death sentence. You're basically maybe you're forcing me to do something. And so I did do a placement. I got a placement job at a company called Anritsu. It was a job I didn't particularly like, but and I figured I think in the first 2 weeks that, but then I had 11 more months to go. But hey, it taught me discipline, and I had an amazing manager. So I learned. I moved to Luton
Okay.
for a year, which was an interesting mixed experience. And yeah, but I got involved in also things like a hackathon. So Samsung once did a hackathon there, and I was one of the winners where we had to
Oh,
code for
nice.
24 hours without sleep
Mm.
and things like that. So I got involved with things like that, but also I was already consulting, building mobile apps for people at the time actually. And at my final year, I was also working for a startup where I was building mobile applications. So from my third year onwards, I was already sort of like working. I used my second year to mostly work for free to build up my portfolio in the
Yeah.
UK because even though I had done stuff in Nigeria, it didn't really carry over.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's kind of what I did in university, and a lot of what I learned in university was very pivotal to that.
In terms of technicality and expertise, how would you compare software developers in Europe to their counterparts in Africa?
Mm. I think if I'm being honest, the for the starting developer, the internet is a leveler,
Mhm.
so you can learn. I was learning software development in Nigeria when pretty much no one else I knew my age was learning HTML. Right? There was never a conversation with this was mid early to well 2003 upwards or 2002 upwards. There was no kid my age that was talking about HTML. I never met them, so it was very new. But now it's different because I had to go online. So I would say from what school teaches you, so like high school and university, you're definitely at a disadvantage. You come from Nigeria because you cannot hack education. You cannot have infrastructure if your government does not fundamentally give you that. You might be lucky if you go to one of these serious private schools, but still,
Yeah, I
you're
know
at a huge
that.
disadvantage
Yeah.
because there's no community and stuff like that. It will get better with the internet becoming a leveler, but I think after that, the quality all comes down to what you can produce. Like your means of production is what makes you valuable. However, I would be lying if I said if you lived in certain parts of Africa, you didn't have a disadvantage. Internet speed,
Yeah.
access to internet. Most likely if you lived in Europe or America, you already have Wi-Fi at home. You didn't need to pay for that in Nigeria. MTN is frustrating you, so things like that. So these are things that will add up over time that work in your against you.
Against you.
But in terms of the level of quality you can have, and the geography does not play a role into that. So if you put in the work, you'd be just as good as anybody anywhere else.
Yeah, because I mean, with the internet, the world is a global village already, right?
Mm.
I mean, there are lots of opportunities that can even be available to you, regardless your geographical location. Yeah, that's. I mean, I agree with that. Yeah. So, my next question will be, especially for my viewers who are budding app developers, or I mean, mobile app developers. So, what programming languages do you think are essential for mobile app developers, and then what platforms do you think they can learn from?
Okay, so these are people that haven't started developing. They want
Yeah,
to.
maybe they have like a basic understanding of what mobile app development is, right? And they still look out for information from people like you, and they want to say, okay, so let me take this from Sunny, right? I mean, this because Sunny has the experience. Where Sonny started from. He started with this language, right? And he's recommended this programming language and all of that for me.
So, I mean, for people getting into programming just general today, I would always recommend, first of all, just learning the web. The web is the biggest platform. There are more websites made every day than probably apps that exist, right? Every day. Just think about how many websites, just only Nigeria alone, that are being created every single day. You know, the web platform, that's, HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. And that also gives you the good logical understanding. And then from there, even me, as early as that's what I learned. And then I started building more cross-platform mobile applications, because when you learn that, you can apply it to things like, Ionic or stuff like that, which I use a lot of, that you can build not just an iOS or Android application or web application. You can kind of like find your way. But over time, you'd want to specialize, so you can potentially go native as well with, Android and learn Kotlin, or iOS, you learn Swift. Or now with Flutter that has just come out and is really gaining a lot of ground, you can learn Dart and start creating multiple ways. But if I met someone new that was just starting today, I would tell them really, really learn the web, because from the web with JavaScript, you can the possibilities are endless. You may decide just to focus on web applications. You may decide to go mobile with the web with JavaScript, with React Native and Ionic and things like that. While the other ones, let's say if you learned just Android with Kotlin, you're kind of locked in. That's all you can do. You cannot take that Kotlin experience, somewhat you can apply to other things, but you cannot use Kotlin to develop, let's say, an iOS application. But with the web, you can go different directions. So it gives you more like branches to stem from that you can specialize in.
Okay, that's nice. So talking about platforms, are there platforms you can suggest for people to learn? I mean, I know there's a whole lot of resources on the internet, but from your own experience, is there a particular platform you would recommend?
Yes, I mean, YouTube is the biggest platform. That's just interesting. You're gonna find somebody teaching something in YouTube.
Just so as we're uploading this on YouTube.
Yes, you're going to find somebody that's teaching something on YouTube. Now you might, to find quality content, yes, you might need to do a little bit more. But the thing with YouTube is, don't be locked in. The person you start learning from is not necessarily the person you're gonna stick to. So you might start learning from this particular person. Find somebody that teaches something the way you like, right? Different people are different. You have different types of learners. So just find something on YouTube. Really Google it. Go on YouTube. There are paid platforms out there. The Udemy's, the Plural sites, the LinkedIn, which I happen to be an author of. But if you're starting off, these might be very expensive. So I would say start off with YouTube. A lot more. Most of what you need is on YouTube. The thing is, people don't want to curate sometimes because that takes time. So just curate for yourself on YouTube, and you'd find a lot of good content in there.
I agree. A whole lot of people just want to be spoon-fed, right? They want to do the work. The little work that just entails just search for the right content, relevant content, right? That can help you learn whatever it is you want to learn. So I've seen cases where people just build apps without proof of concepts, sometimes even without a minimum viable product. So take for instance, I come to you as a client and I say, I have this bright idea, right? And I want you to develop a mobile app for me. As a developer, what are the pertinent questions you should ask first?
Yeah, that's true. The most important thing is, what are you trying to solve? That's the important question. What is the goal here? Because that's the hard part. Okay, what do we want to do? So, for example, what really is the goal? When you understand the goal, then you can remove yourself. And as a developer or a consultant, you have to also be willing to tell the client that this solution that they think, because clients always come thinking they have a solution already to their problem, right? But then they're coming to you because if their solution actually was a real solution, they wouldn't come to you anyway. So they're not sure, or they think they know. And it's your job to be honest with them.
Just like a client, a patient that comes to the doctor, I have a headache. Who told you have a headache? Let me examine you first.
Exactly. You have to really, because they could have a brain tumor, right? You don't just go, oh, you have it, I'm just going to give you paracetamol or aspirin. So you have to really be honest, because you have to be willing to get uncomfortable with whoever you're talking to. really understand what they want to achieve, what their goal is, and then you walk back with that, and then that you try to build a solution around that. And when you talk about like minimum viable product, sometimes I think a lot of times, almost half the time, your MVP is actually not an app. Your MVP is, will people use it? Sometimes your MVP is a mailing list.
Yeah.
You might build the best app, but then 3 people will use it. But if you have a mailing list of 20,000 people, you already have distribution. So that's how the concept of MVP doesn't necessarily mean you have to build like an app. If you look at the site like Nomad List, for example, .com, for digital nomads, this site started off as an Excel sheet. It's an Excel sheet, right? I always say your biggest competition is an Excel sheet somewhere, right? So it started off as an Excel sheet that people just created, and they got value for the Excel sheet, but now it's a website because after a while they needed to scale. So that Excel sheet was the MVP. So a lot of the times, your MVP, you already have the tools to build that MVP, but there's this insistence that it has to be an app. So, but in just to round up that point is really try and get into the head of your customer. Your customer knows exactly what they think they're trying to articulate. You have to ask the right questions, and you have to be willing to tell them the correct things as well. That may be uncomfortable. That may mean they don't end up hiring you, but that's what you have to do if you really want to have a long-term successful solution.
Yeah, I mean, since we're talking about mobile apps, so from functionality and design perspective, what are the main processes a developer should focus on in developing an app?
Yeah, I think you have to think about the entire life cycle of an application, all the way from, because sometimes developers, let me just cut myself there off. Sometimes developers are so focused on building what they think is nice, this very nice, shiny, amazing code, but are you really thinking about the user? There's only one boss. That boss is called the user, because by not paying their money, they fire everybody. So your manager is not the boss. Your users are the boss. So be as close to your users as possible. Really listen to what they want. That's I when I'm building apps, I have meetings with like monthly meetings. I go all the way to Doncaster to meet people using the app, because they will show you things that you never knew. I remember one time I went to a meeting with a bunch of psychologists, and right there at the login, there was a Internet Explorer issue where one logo design didn't show, but we never really tested on that version of Internet Explorer. So I'm sitting there thinking they think it's normal. They're just logging in, but I'm sitting there sweating, saying, "Oh my god!" But if I never went to the user and they start asking questions, you might find it annoying, but they really ask them why, because they want to achieve a goal. So that's the most important thing. And then when it comes to design as well, you have to think about very, very, not necessarily UI design, but design experience perspective. If whatever you do, a user has to ask, how do I do this? That design has failed for the most part. It's actually too hard, or it has failed. One of the two, right? Your users should be able to walk in and just naturally flow for the most part. At least most of your users should be able to naturally flow and know what they need to do. And no matter how amazing what you're developing is, it has to fall within that bound. These are the things that every developer needs to take into account. Am I doing this amazing thing in a way that's easy for the user to use? That's the key question.
I think, yeah, I agree with that. I mean, customer feedback is very, very important, right? It's not just enough to just develop app and just leave it out there to just hang on its own, right? It's very important to get feedback, right? How is this product doing in the market? I mean, not just even have, I mean, for everything you build, right, or any solution you're trying to sell or you've sold, it's very important to get feedback and see what's how it's performing out there and how you can improve on what you've built, right? Thanks so far for sticking by. Thank you for watching so far. If you are just joining, or if you are a new user, a new viewer of this channel, right, kindly click on that subscribe button to subscribe. And not just that, click on the bell icon to get notified when I upload new videos. If you're enjoying this conversation so far, kindly drop a comment or whatever question you have in the comment section. And not just that, click on that share button to share this video with people in your network. Right. As we round up, right, let me just ask Sani this question. So, what communities would you suggest for mobile developers? I mean, budding mobile developers. Are there tech communities you can suggest for them to join?
100%. I think most mobile communities have some form of like online community. So online, you can think of like things like mobile tuts. I actually used to write for them, mobile tutorial.
Tuts.
Yeah, mobile tuts. I don't think they're still like as popular. You can look at, like, for example, the Ionic community, which I'm a member of. That's really, really huge. You can read the blogs. Also find influencers in those fields. There are people that their job is just they write, developer advocates of these things that write. Find the ones that relate to you or that do things. And if there isn't a community around you, build one. Right, start one. That's what I did with the Ionic community. You start one, really. You create one by yourself, or find other people that want to. Maybe it's 3 people, maybe it's 5 people, but really, and don't your loyalty to a community doesn't have to be forever. Like, you can move on to other communities that expand your interest as well. You can mix up communities, and also conferences, meetups, attend those things. Really, really attend those things. And the last thing I would say is, right, when you learn something, right, think about it. If you learn 1 plus 1 from someone, if the person that taught you 1 plus 1 felt like 1 plus 1 was too easy, so they're not going to teach it, you wouldn't have learned 1 plus 1.
Yeah.
So with the little you learn, write about it, tweet about it, record a video like this about it, because there's someone else. Share information. There's someone else that is literally looking for that information, and the way you have presented it is in a way that relates to them. So maybe your example, you used Alagbado and Oshodi in your examples, and they happen to be Nigeria, so they relate better than 10 Downing Street and strawberries. You use Agbalu more. Do that. Really, really, really create. That's the most important thing.
I 100% agree with that. You never can tell who you're going to help with content you're sharing. And I'm 100% of an advocate of people sharing information. I've always said this. If you follow me on Twitter, you would know that I talk about this a lot. Don't hoard information, right? I remember when I was trying to come to the UK on Technician, and I was just looking all around for information from people. Everybody was just doing osh, 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 osh. Nobody wants to talk about how they got it or whatever process, or just basic questions that could help someone out there like myself. And that's why when I got to the UK, the first thing I did was to make a video about Technician, the entire process, how I got my endorsement, and how people that were watching or people that are watching could get endorsed also. So that's 100% correct. Whatever you've learned or whatever you're learning, write about your experience, blog about it, tweet about it, right? Make videos about it. In the long run, you're not just helping people, you're also, establishing yourself, sort of in that context. All right, so yeah, so I know you are the founder of Haibrid, and I know you guys have worked on several projects in the UK and across the globe. So what's battered the idea of Haibrid? What projects have you guys worked on so far? What's impact in terms of numbers? I want numbers in terms of the. Let's talk about that. Have you made so far, right?
Yeah, so Haibrid is mostly like it's an interesting company. Let's talk about how I started the idea. I think in my 3rd year, I started consulting because I had finished. Sorry, my 4th year, I had finished my placement, right, and I realized that you know what, I loved learning, and I didn't want to just go work full time where I could only learn. I like learning a few things. I like being the jack of all trades. If you look at my first ever website, my tagline was "Forget Jack, I am the guy of all trades." That's just how I've always thought of myself. Like, I want to learn, I want to share. So it became very clear that I wanted to do that. But obviously, I'm now dealing with visa situation, because if you don't have a job, so you needed to go tier 1. So all that, it's not easy. But I just knew I wanted to do that. So that's how I decided to come up with a company called Haibrid. At the time, I was an Ionic developer, and Ionic was a very new technology. So Ionic allows you to develop hybrid mobile applications with HYBRID, right? So I was like, well, I don't have experience in the industry as much as most people, but I'm like, literally, I knew how to create Ionic apps better than most people in the world. So I was like, well, I'm going to create a company that works around that, but I wanted to have a long-term future. So I couldn't use, so I came out HAIBRI, which was Haibrid. So because I knew that one day I probably wouldn't be doing Ionic stuff, but the name would still remain relevant. And so that's how I came up with Haibrid. And Haibrid is mostly me, but we have different arms. We have like a consultation arm, which is what it started off. But we also have an innovation arm where some of the money we make, the whole, think of it as an R&D company. I'm just doing R&D until I find that big fish, and then I retire and go and buy a boat in Dubai. But that's kind of like what we've done. And I say we mostly I work with contractors. We do have one or two full-time staff because we're into agriculture, education, and healthcare. And in terms of like people we've worked with, we've done some cool works. We've I've been lucky to travel the world and train a few like Fortune 500 companies, or go into places like rural Alabama and you meet a $6 billion company you've never heard of, and work with people like that. And yes, monetarily wise, alhamdulillah, we've done okay. We could do better, but because it's still very much so like me, myself, and and I like it that way for now, because the long term of the company is the innovation. We want to just be building that product. Uh, Money wise, I can't give you specific numbers, but we have had, I guess now we've had more profitable years than we have had unprofitable years. So we're in a pretty good place. Although COVID just happened, so there is that that really cut down a lot of traveling, a lot of stuff. And we were somewhat prepared because we've been mostly remote company, but it did like we had to go out of pocket because we didn't lay off anyone. And then we're building some few products that I'm happy to go into. So in all, that's the story of Haibrid.
Platforms like this are quite good, right? So where we spotlight people in tech. I mean, people like yourself doing incredibly well, right? And I know at some point I've had conversations with other people where I mean they've mentioned about the talent gap, especially in tech, right? Apart from platforms like this, how else do you think we can address the talent gap in tech?
It's a difficult one, right? Because as an employer myself, I understand. Like, if I was my company was a lumbering company where people were just chopping wood. If I bring you, you've never chopped wood before, you're gonna learn how to chop wood pretty quickly, right? In a couple of days, because all you need to do is swing an axe.
Yeah.
With tech, it's a little bit different because it's going to take you. I would say it takes maybe 18 months for somebody to really fully settle. Some people settle faster, but 18 months is like, okay, you fully absorb the company culture. And the bigger the company, the larger. Startups maybe a little bit faster. So you're investing in potentially someone like, let's say, that is just out of uni, that probably, I would say most computer science or tech students, they're not employable, like very few of them, because you've learned all these things, but the industry would just, is a whole different experience. Most of the things that you actually need to survive in the industry is, I always say, is the ability to learn, unlearn, and relearn. It's the soft skills, right? It's not the technical skills, but the technical skills matter, and they take time to learn. So it's difficult for you. I guess there isn't really one way. I would say the one way we can address some of the talent is really start at grassroots level, right? Computer science or things like that. Coding should not. It should be things like coding should be like we should expose kids as young as 5, really, so that when they grow and they go into a job, they can just almost automatically adapt, right? Or somewhat technical skills. So we need to really think of the way the world is becoming more and more technical. And right now, there is a huge talent gap. There's so many jobs. There's just not enough qualified people to do it. And I think this is actually good news for us in Africa because we can leverage on that to really, work remotely. But I'll be lying if I said I had the complete solution to the talent gap problem. I think there are different ways you can solve it. You can go from the grassroots level side. I really want to see the grassroots level works. But also, I think I like what companies like Amazon do. So there's a platform I work on where I mentor students, and Amazon is one of the clients. And what they do is their non-technical staff, they pay for them to go and learn how to code, right, in this platform. And now, guess what? When Amazon, because Amazon knows there's a skill gap, right? Guess where those guys are going to apply for jobs? At Amazon. So Amazon is basically investing in the future of its own staff. I think that's very, very, because they know that, look, we're going to automate most of your jobs here. Like, you're a cashier and everything. In the next 10 years, you're probably not going to have a job. So why don't we invest in you, and like those of you that could actually ramp up, you end up working at Amazon. Exactly. Or go somewhere else.
Yeah, I mean that's true. Especially looking at it from the basic background point of view. For most people, especially, I mean, in Africa, that background knowledge is always missing, right? And access also to computers is also missing, right? And also mentorship. I mean, most people develop interest at a very young age, right? But then again, they really don't have that platform or access to someone to guide them to what they want to do and shape that vision of whatever they have for them, right? So I agree with that. Let's move to the last question and then we'll round up. Any word of advice for app developers out there?
Hmm. You guys are in trouble. I'm the one advising you. Don't take my advice. I think the most important skill today is your ability to learn, unlearn, and relearn. This is the single most important skill you have today. Soft skills matter. You can be the smartest person in the room, but if you're not the type of person that people want to work with, you're not going to get very far in life. That's just very true. So a lot of times we focus on the technical skills, but we don't focus on the soft skills. How you write emails to people, how you speak to people, when can they trust you, trustworthiness, when you say you're going to get this done, when you're going to have a meeting at this time. These are the reasons why people want to work with you. Trustworthiness is the single most important skill you can develop. Are you trustworthy to people? Would people talk about you and be like, this person was a pleasure to work with? That's very important. I would say invest in yourself, invest in your own learning, right? Invest in your own learning because the industry moves so fast. Right now, there's another Sani working harder than me. And guess what? I will be replaced. But the thing is, I'm also working hard to replace some other Sani up there in his position. I'm not going to sit and be comfortable because, hey, I think so. Recognize that there's a time and a place. It's a pyramid. And the higher you go, the less people there are. Just make sure you're one of the people going to the top. Exactly. And you can only do that by investing in yourself. Are you learning? Sometimes there'll be times where I know specific skills. If you look at my history, for example, 2001 to I was doing HTML. 2006, 7, I was trying to learn C#. That didn't quite work out. 2009, I was doing PHP. Right? 2011, I was doing PhoneGap. Then ended up going to Windows Phone. I did software testing for a year. Now I came back to HTML, CSS with Ionic, and now I'm doing mostly Angular. Now I've moved to more MongoDB DevOps. So it's like it's a constant evolution, and you have to be you have to be conscious about that because you'd get replaced like this. There's a 12-year-old somewhere that knows how to play Call of Duty that will spend more time learning than you. So invest in yourself, and that's the most important thing. And I think one thing I would say is you're not as good as you think, but you're also not as bad as you think. It's a humbling thing. It's kind of like an oxymoron, right? It's like you're not as great as you think. Don't think because maybe you and your friends you're not as good as you think, but you're also not as terrible as you think. You're somewhere right in the middle for the most part. So have that, accept that, and just be willing to learn. And don't try to be right. Try to have the right answer. Yeah.
Let me use that aspire to old body for today. All right, it's been fun having Sani on this show today. Thank you so much, Sani. Thanks for doing this. I really appreciate the time, and thank you guys for watching. Thanks for sticking with us, right? And if you want to connect with Sani, you want to ask questions apart from what I've asked him on this show, you want to ask him some personal questions or questions as it relates to your career, he's always open to answering questions from people, right? His LinkedIn profile is displayed on the screen. His Twitter also is displayed. I've connected with him on LinkedIn and Twitter. And also, if you have questions for myself, right, my email address is also displayed on there, right? And like I said, don't forget to share this video, right? Share people in your network and also subscribe to this channel, right? Thank you so much, guys, and I'll see you guys in the next.